their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
All right, boys. We got a busy day here. We've got a busy weekend. Vikings training camp going on. Twins trade deadline counting down. So we'll have stuff on that. It's Action Movie Rewind Friday. We're heading toward the NBA league year early next week. I believe Monday. Sunday/Monday. It's August 2nd, Monday. But let's start here, boys. Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment, and we want titles. Everything we talk about is through the prism of titles here on the show. Okay?
Can we pull it back a little bit?
Titles
with the Wolves.
No, dude. I want titles.
Well, you want a title. I'm just saying when it comes to the Twins, the Vikings, and the Wild. But when it comes to the Wolves, I'll just take that playing game.
Okay. All right. So we want titles for all the other teams. For the Wolves, we just want the 10 seed. We just want the 10 seed, baby. Yeah. That's right. So let's do a few minutes here on the trade that was made last night. I think Judd hit a write that down prediction here. You said very early on when Rubio was traded for last year, you said this will be his only year. He'll be here for 1 year, even though it's a 2-year contract. So he was traded to Cleveland last night for Taurean Prince, who, by the way, Taurean Prince, a second-round pick and some cash. We'll get into sort of the inner makings here. But if you guys remember, Taurean Prince played at Baylor, and I think Baylor got upset by Yale or something in the NCAA tournament. And he was the guy that was asked, some angry reporter was like, how could you guys get out-rebounded by Yale? You got out-rebounded by Yale. What is that? This is an outrage. Yale, right? And Taurean Prince said, well, so how could they out-rebound you? Well, they reached up and they grabbed the ball off the rim and they secured it, and that's a rebound. And they did that more than we did.
I love it.
So if we get that Taurean Prince in postgame, like when the Wolves get thrashed by the Memphis Grizzlies,
who's going to be outraged though? Like what? Who's the outraged reporter at this point?
You know what? Britt Robson will get a little cantankerous.
Most of them are like, okay, you lost again. That's cool.
Yeah, I know. Britt will sometimes get mad. Like, what do you guys? I've been watching this for 30 years. What are you guys doing?
It down too, though. That's very true.
Yep. So they make the trade. John Hollinger from The Athletic and Dane Moore, our friend, did a great job explaining some of this stuff too. I'm just reading this from The Athletic. Why this is a good trade for the Timberwolves. It's not a blockbuster. It's not going to change the franchise, but why it's a good trade on a couple different fronts. So the Wolves go from 4.7 below the luxury tax line to 9.5 million below the luxury tax line. Enough that it opens them up to potentially use their entire taxpayer mid-level exception, which means, so when you're over the cap, like the Wolves are, the only way for you to bring a free agent in is through what the league calls the mid-level exception. If you're too close to the luxury tax, you only get like $5 million to spend on a player. If you clear some room and give yourself some breathing room between where you're at and the luxury tax ceiling, you can spend about $10 million per year on a place. You can get a better player with the full mid-level exception in free agency. You could sign a guy to like a 4-year, $40 million contract now, which is, you could get someone legitimate. And as Hollinger writes, it could open up signing 2020 first-rounder Leandro Bolmaro, who might come over this year and be a factor. So and by the way, like to replace Rubio, Jordan McLaughlin could become, a varsity roster player, so to speak. So there's ways you can replace Rubio, but they open up a chance to use the full mid-level exception by clearing some salary cap space. And by the way, Taurean Prince, he shoots threes at a 40% clip. He's a little bit undersized to play the 4, but like you can put him out there as kind of a big wing player or a small sort of undersized 4. Defense is very optional for Taurean Prince, but I like this trade. John Hollinger likes the trade. What do you guys think of the Ricky Rubio era coming to an end here in Minnesota?
I think that it was probably a good plan by Gerson and at the time Ryan Saunders to bring Rubio back last November. I believe they acquired him on what was the draft night in November 2020, and then they traded him on draft night 2021. I think the intention was good. I get why they did it. Obviously, Ricky and Ryan are very close, but we saw enough, in my opinion, of Ricky last year where he needed to go. Like, it just wasn't going to work. I don't think he was necessarily going to fit into what Chris Finch does offensively. And Chris Finch has a very good idea because of his background, what he wants to do offensively. I appreciate his defense, but clearing up more cap room to me is the absolute key here. Like, I think this is going to trigger more moves now. So I don't believe we're talking about the player in Prince that they got back as, okay, is this guy going to contribute and how good is he going to be? And is this a great trade? I think that this goes to what you said, Phil, which is the explanation of what this does for you now to make subsequent moves because you freed up the cash. Mm-hmm. So that's so forget the player that they got back. I actually think that this goes way more to the fact that they freed up more moves to be made now, of which I think that they will make more.
And that's the thing, right? Like, this can't be all right. So, and Prince is an expiring contract. In theory, you could just spin Prince because Prince, as an expiring $13 million chunk, is valuable. Those contracts are valuable for teams looking to clear cap space for next summer. So he could be a trade chip. There's so many things that could happen. But like I said, if this is the move, and maybe there's like another minor move, you're still very much on the fringe of the play-in next year. If you can somehow take pieces, future draft picks, whatever it may be, and spin those things, because now you can trade a first-round pick again. Now that we're past the draft, you can't trade back-to-back future first-round picks. You have to have at least a first-round pick within the next 2 years. So now that we're past the draft, you can officially trade your 2022 first-round pick. What's the next thing? Is the question. Is it a Ben Simmons? I mean, that asking price right now, I'm not giving up 4 future first, 3 pick swaps, and a player for Ben Simmons right now. Just not. And by the way, that's the thing. Like, to make it work for Ben Simmons, you have to give up players because his contract is like $35 million a year. So right now, the Sixers are asking for 4 first-round picks, and from the Wolves' perspective, like a Malik Beasley and another player, like just to make the money work. Mm-hmm. So this was an interesting move last night. Hopefully, it's just sort of the first turning of the wheels over the next week for the Wolves to do something splashier.
Yeah. So in the Zoom call that he did last night, after, of course, not having a draft pick, Gerson talked about the move and talked about the fact that this was a step in getting bigger and better on defense, which, as you pointed out with Prince, doesn't really do it. So I think what we're going to see is the next move is going to be to continue to try to get bigger and more defense, which could mean Prince is gone too. Again, I don't think the move is what's important here, and the money, the player's not. So I don't know that the next move is going to like knock our socks off. Oh my God, it's Simmons or a perceived potential star player. But I do think it's going to go to getting way more what they need as far as defense goes. And you know what? Keep in mind, too, this is going to be the first time that Chris Finch can sort of craft the roster a little bit himself to be what he wants and to be offensively what he wants as well. So these moves to me now are going to be far more hand in hand, like the Vikings moves are, between head coach and president of basketball operations in this case, to get you to a place where when you start training camp, you're far more comfortable with what you have from a personnel standpoint, that they can execute what you want if you're Chris Finch.
Yeah. The offseason, the work that Chris Finch did on the fly last year was very impressive and transformational in some ways. I don't want to go too far because they were still the Wolves.
Red Auerbach, John Wooden, combination of these guys, and Phil Jackson in his prime.
But it will be interesting to see, and there's already some off-season bonding, like they had the team together at a Twins game, and Anthony Edwards was doing backflips off a boat. So we're doing the chemistry thing this off-season, which is great.
What? I didn't see that. What?
I know you're going to get nervous that he's going to. Yeah, he was on Lake Minnetonka doing backflips off a boat into the water. Nothing dangerous.
Judge's writing a column tonight. Declan's
not necessarily wrong. Wait a second. He was doing backflips off a boat on Lake Minnetonka?
It's fine.
Why is it fine?
It's fine. There's no one else around.
Yeah.
This is reminding me
things that can go wrong in the water.
Somebody dug up a tweet and a take from Judd that was like 5 or 6 years old this morning.
Nice. On Rizzo.
Anthony Rizzo getting traded last night, and Judd got so mad when Anthony Rizzo stood up on the tarp at Wrigley to catch a foul ball.
No, on the wall. The tarp I was okay with. The wall, he was on the wall. You can slip off that wall, you are screwed. And I do not want my star player. You know what? Send the 12th guy on the bench. He can do backflips on Lake Minnetonka.
Jake Lehman, you're the stunt man. Come on in here, buddy.
Do all the backflips you want, Jake.
Let's see a Misty. Come on, Jake Lehman.
Jalen Noel, you're the stunt double here. All right. Yeah. Whenever we're doing ass shots or backflips off of the boat, we need you to be a stand-in here.
Backflip gainer. Let's go. Come on, Jake Lehman.
I gotta go find this. This makes it now. My day's ruined.
There was one the big thing in the NBA yesterday. Obviously, Russell Westbrook getting traded. He's going to be like 33, I want to say, and he did average a triple double last year, but he's not quite he's never been the most efficient player. But some of the the deeper analytical dives will tell you that he's not nearly the same player he was. But anyways, so he gets traded from Washington to the Lakers. And your first thought was, oh, this is good news for teams like the Timberwolves that would love to leverage Bradley Beal as the Wizards as a third team that you can dump your rebuilding assets onto, draft picks, to then get a Ben Simmons or somebody. Well, there's a report last night that Bradley Beal has decided to not request a trade from the Wizards. Mm-hmm. And in a roundabout way, I think that impacts the Timberwolves because if they want to acquire Ben Simmons, they need a third team. There's really... I don't see the Wolves offering up D'Angelo Russell or Cat or Anthony Edwards in a trade directly with the 76ers. They would need to send assets, draft picks, a Malik Beasley, maybe a Jaden McDaniels, as much as that would suck. Like, can you send assets to a team looking to rebuild and then a wing player or a shooting guard like Bradley Beal goes to the Sixers and then Ben Simmons comes to the Timberwolves? Like, that made sense. But if Bradley Beal has decided, for whatever reason, for his Stockholm syndrome that he's been suffering in Washington, D.C.,
love Washington,
that he's not going to request a trade, then that avenue would be dead for the Timberwolves. So something worth noting.
Yeah, that's going to be – so from what Doogie told us, if the Sixers' asking price for Simmons remains what he said – I believe he was talking about that trade potentially in relation to the Spurs, Phil. I got to think that's going to be a no-go here. Like, if you can get a third team in too, but didn't you tell me a couple days ago that Toronto was basically just bypassed a third team and said, well, we'll trade for him, but let's just do the deal between us and you. So I don't think they're going to get Simmons, but I do think that they're going to make some substantial moves that, again, aren't going to be like, oh, my God, I can't believe that they made that move, but are going to strengthen this team.
And like the Pacers, like Miles Turner, we don't know what the Pacers are thinking. Do they think they can contend in the East?
Right.
Are they going to go into kind of a rebuild? Would they just spin pieces? We don't know yet, but we will. We will know in the next 4 days or so.
Backflip off a pontoon. I'm watching it right now. I'm a little bit more at ease here after seeing it because it's a pontoon. So we're not.
It's the minivan of the boats.
Yeah, and you can actually launch yourself pretty safely off the pontoon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not gonna lie though. I don't love it.
Okay.
Next contract, no lakes.
I will say, watching that draft last night, I watched the majority of it. Cade Cunningham looks like an absolute stud, and that dude is so well spoken. Like I'm very excited to watch him in the league. Like he looks just like an absolute star.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying he might be, in terms of just being 6'8", and he's just big and can do everything, that he might be the most surefire prospect since LeBron James.
Dex, are you inching towards being a Pistons guy? Bad Boys?
I might be. Bad Boys, yeah. I'm down for the Bad Boys. Yeah,
Mahorn?
Absolutely. I was a big Chauncey Billups fan in my youth. So yeah,
everyone needs a backup. If you're a Wolves guy, you need a backup team because usually by like February, it's time to start thinking about the draft for the Timberwolves. Yeah. So who's your backup team? Maybe the Pistons.
It's been a long time since the Pistons have been anyone's backup team. Before Declan was born.
Need some of that insurance, man. Need some of that insurance. Never know.
What do you mean? You're saying the Pistons haven't been relevant? The Pistons won a championship?
But they also, I think, they have won a championship for the Wolves, so we shouldn't brag on them too much. But they have, one winning season in the last 12 years, no playoff wins in that time. I mean, they have been a dump. But I will take them.
And the championship team, though, that they had, Phil, the last one was a really boring team to watch.
I don't know. I thought
Ben
Wallace blocking shots, Rip Hamilton with the face mask for no reason.
Yeah. The NBA back then, at that point, not all that exciting. Let's be honest about it.
It was a down period. The Wolves definitely definitely missed their window there. So, all right.